So there's a lot of concern and talk right now about the flattening of the yield curve, namely the spread between the 2-year and the 10-year Treasury rate, although work has been done to say it's really the 1-year and the 10-year Treasury rate that's more meaningful. And our own work really shows that it's really the spread between the 2-year and the funds rate. Whatever rate you're picking, whatever spread you're picking, the point is, as the curve flattens and threatens to go negative, does that signal a recession or not? Of course it does. It always has, and it always will. In fact, this whole argument from the Fed about papers that they've done and discussions and everything else is extraordinarily disingenuous on their part, because they understand that dynamic, because they use that dynamic in the other direction, namely engineering a very steep positive curve during recessions and keeping the curve very positive early on in a recovery in order to reliquefy the financial system and get the credit markets open and rolling again. And what it really all comes down to, it's not a talisman. What it really all comes down to is a matter of incentive. When the curve is negative, you're being compensated more for keeping your money in short term than you are for lending it out. And so people do. It contracts the growth of credit. And obviously, when you contract the growth of credit, at some point along the line, usually 6 to 18 months later, the economy starts to slow down. So it's not magic. It's just a question of shifting prices. Now, is a flat curve a precursor to a negative curve? Sure. But you could say a negative curve is a precursor of a positive curve, and a positive curve is a precursor of a negative curve. I mean, it's a cycle. Truth is that once the Fed has normalized the short end of the curve, which is the process we're in right now, and as long as it's not at the point of trying to create a recession or slow down because the economy is running too hot, the interest rates, as they did in the mid-1990s, can run fairly flat for an extended period of time. We had about a 30, 40 basis point spread average in 2s, 10s from 95 through 97. And we could do the same now. There's no reason why not. So a flatter curve is not a negative curve. A flatter curve just means that the Fed is no longer artificially suppressing the short end of the curve to reliquefy the banking system. It just means that what you have is really what I would consider a normal yield curve, and that is fine in an environment where the economy can grow, and it does grow quite well with that. An inverted curve will slow the economy down, and the Fed will actively look to invert the curve if they think that inflation is starting to run away. We don't see the inflation issue running away. A flat-ish curve that we have now is, to me, a normal curve, and the economy will continue to expand very nicely with that. A flat curve is not an inverted curve, but when and if the curve does invert, it's not magic. It does slow the economy because it shifts money away from credit, and as a result, the economy eventually contracts.